God, I am tired. I can't continue with this kind of life.
Oh my God.
Oh, hell Queen Mother, I worship you this day.
Taju had just returned from a long journey. His feet were tired, his clothes were dusty, and his old brown bag was hanging loosely on his shoulder. Inside the bag were only a few things: some dried food, a small knife, and the traps he used for animals in the bush. He had gone far to look for work, but luck did not smile on him. So he decided to return to his village quietly. As he walked through the bush path that led near the river, he suddenly stopped. His legs refused to move. His mouth opened slowly, and his eyes became wide. What he saw made his heart jump into his throat. Standing beside the river was Pastor Sharp, the most popular pastor in the whole state. Everyone knew him. People said he could heal the sick, make barren women pregnant, and turn poor people into millionaires overnight. Wataju had even seen him on big posters and banners. But what shocked Taju was not just seeing the pastor there. It was what the pastor was doing. The pastor was standing alone by the river, raising his hands and speaking strange words that did not sound like prayer. His voice was low and deep, like someone talking to something unseen. Taju slowly hid behind a thick bush, holding his bag tightly. His body started shaking without control. The wind suddenly became cold, even though it was afternoon. The water in the river began to move in a strange way, forming small circles. Then suddenly the river parted a little, and something dark rose from inside it. A very big python slowly emerged from the water. Its head was huge, its eyes were red, and its body was thick like a fallen tree. The python stood tall in front of the pastor, and while its long tail was still deep inside the river. Taju almost screamed, but fear locked his mouth. Pastor Sharp immediately fell on his knees. He bowed his head low, like a servant before a king. His voice began to shake as he spoke. "The Great One, I have come again," the pastor said. "3 days from now is Sunday. Please be with me as I stand on the altar. Teach me what to say. Let the people believe my words. Let their hearts be soft, so they will drop whatever money they have." Tears rolled down the pastor's face, but Taju could see that they were not tears of fear. They were tears of hunger for power. The python opened its mouth slowly. Its voice did not sound like an animal. It sounded heavy, deep, and powerful, like many voices speaking at once. "You know what to do," the python said. "Lay your hand on their heads. Pretend to pray for them. Trap their souls without them knowing. Bring them to me a day after Sunday." Pastor Sharp nodded quickly, like a child who had been warned. "Yes, my lord," he said. "I will not fail you." The python looked at him for a long time, then slowly turned and slid back into the river. The water closed, as if nothing had ever come out. Silence covered the bush. Taju felt like his heart would burst. His legs were weak, his palms were wet with sweat. He now understood everything. All the miracles, all the testimonies, all the sudden deaths after church services. Fear grabbed him hard, but now he wished he had never walked near this river. He did not know whether to run or stay still. He did not even know if what he saw was real or a dream. Pastor Sharp slowly stood up. He dusted his knees and adjusted his expensive white robe. He looked around the bush sharply, like someone who suddenly remembered something important. Unknown to Taju, the pastor's bodyguards were standing far away near the road. They had no idea what their boss had just done. The pastor took a few steps, then stopped. His eyes narrowed. He looked toward the bushes where Taju was hiding. Taju's heart stopped. He slowly moved back, trying not to make any sound. But as fate would have it, his foot landed on a dry stick. Crack! The sound was loud. Too loud. Who is there? The pastor shouted. No answer. Who is there? He asked again, this time louder. Taju held his breath. Leaves brushed against his face as he tried to hide deeper. The pastor began to walk toward the sound. His footsteps were slow but confident. With every step, for Taju felt death was coming closer. Suddenly, fear took over. Taju jumped out from the bush and ran with all his strength. His bag bounced on his shoulder as he ran. Stop him! Pastor Sharp shouted at the top of his voice. He began to shout strange words again. His bodyguards heard him and ran toward the river. When they saw the pastor pointing toward the bush, he shouted, Catch that boy! He must not escape! The men ran after Taju. They were strong and fast, but fear gave Taju wings. He ran through thorns, stones, and narrow paths. His lungs burned, his legs hurt, but he did not stop. He ran until he burst out into the village. People were sitting outside their houses talking and laughing. Suddenly, they saw Taju running like a madman. The guards followed closely behind. Taju did not stop to explain. He ran straight into an old, abandoned hut at the edge of the village. The roof was broken and the walls were weak. Inside, it was dark and dusty. Taju hid behind broken pots and old wood. He covered his mouth with his hand to stop himself from breathing loudly. Outside, the guards entered the village shouting and asking questions. Did you see a young man run past here? One of the guards asked angrily. The villagers looked confused. Some shook their heads. Some said they saw nothing. Others said they were busy and did not notice anyone. The guards searched around, kicking stones and looking behind houses, but they did not find Taju. Inside the old hut, Taju stood still like a statue. His bag was still on his shoulder. His body was shaking badly. Sweat rolled down his face like rain. His mind was racing. Should he speak? Should he keep quiet forever? What would happen if the pastor found him? He now knew a secret that could cost him his life. Outside, Pastor Sharp stood at the entrance of the village, his face dark with anger. His eyes scanned the area slowly. Deep inside the hut, Taju closed his eyes, praying silently. The bodyguards searched the village for a long time, but they did not find Taju. They checked behind houses, near farms, and along the small paths, but nothing. At last, tired and angry, they returned to the bush where Pastor Sharp was waiting. The pastor's face was dark like night. Did you see him? He asked sharply. The men shook their heads. He disappeared, one of them said. The pastor clenched his fists. He looked toward the river and then toward the village again. Something did not feel right. Meanwhile, back in the village, some villagers had noticed strange movements near the old hut. They saw leaves shaking and heard soft footsteps. A few young men and women became curious. Someone is hiding there, one woman whispered. Slowly, they ran toward the hut. When they got there, they found Taju standing inside, sweating and shaking, holding his old bag tightly. Taju, one of them called. What is wrong with you? Why are those men chasing you? Taju looked at their faces. He wanted to talk. His mouth opened, but no words came out. His heart beat fast. His head was full. Fear and confusion fought inside him. He tried to speak, but his voice failed him. After a long silence, he shook his head. It's nothing, he said weakly. I'm just tired. The villagers looked at each other, confused. They asked more questions, but Taju avoided their eyes. At last he excused himself and slowly walked away, leaving them behind with unanswered questions. As Taju walked home, his legs felt heavy, but his mind was racing. Every step reminded him of the river, the python, the pastor on his knees, the promise of souls. His chest felt tight. Inside his heart, a strong voice spoke clearly to him. I must return to the river after Sunday. I must see how this ends. When he reached his small house, he opened the door and went straight inside. He dropped his bag on the floor and sat heavily on the bed. He stared at the wall without seeing anything. His hands trembled. His ears still heard the deep voice of the python. At that moment, the door opened gently. His pregnant wife walked in slowly, holding her stomach. Her face was full of joy and relief. Taju, you're back, she said softly. Welcome. She moved closer and touched his shoulder. Are you okay? She asked. Taju looked at her and forced a small nod. He did not trust his voice. She noticed his strange behavior. You look tired, she said. Have you eaten? He shook his head. She smiled gently. Come and rest, she said. I'll get you food. As she walked away, Taju lay back on the bed staring at the ceiling. His wife and unborn child were the reasons he was alive. And now he had seen something that could destroy everything. Fear slowly turned into anger inside him. That night, when everywhere was quiet and the moon was high, Taju left his house quietly. He walked carefully until he reached the home of his best friend, Dogo. Dogo had known Taju since they were children. They hunted together. They suffered together. When Dogo opened the door and saw Taju's face, he knew something was wrong. What happened? Dogo asked. Inside the room, Taju sat down and told him everything. He told him about the bush, the river, the pastor, the python, the souls. As he spoke, his voice shook. Dogo's eyes grew wider and wider. Are you serious? Dogo whispered. You mean Pastor Sharp Sharp? Taju nodded. Dogo stood up and began to pace around the room. So, all the miracles, he said slowly. It's all lies? Taju nodded again. Silence filled the room. Finally, Dogo stopped. We can't keep quiet, he said. If what you saw is true, then people are in danger. Taju took a deep breath. The python told him to return after Sunday, he said. We should be there. Dogo looked at him for a long time, then nodded slowly. We will not go alone, he said. We'll gather some youths, but we must be careful. That night, a dangerous plan was born. Exactly on the day the python mentioned, after Sunday had passed, Taju and Dogo quietly gathered some strong youths in the village. They did not tell everyone everything. They only said the pastor was doing something evil by the river. Fear and anger pushed the youths to agree. Late in the evening, they followed Taju and hid in the bushes near the river. The night was quiet. Crickets sang. The river flowed gently. Then footsteps came. Pastor Sharp Sharp appeared alone. He carried a small bottle in his hand. He looked around carefully. He smiled when he saw no one. Good, he muttered. He stood before the river and spoke strange words again. The water began to move. The python emerged slowly, just like before. The youths froze. Their bodies shook, but they kept their heads down, hiding in the bushes. The pastor raised the bottle and turned it upside down. Suddenly, small, human-like figures dressed in white light escaped from the bottle. They cried softly as they floated into the river. Here are the souls, the pastor said proudly. The python moved closer and licked the pastor's head slowly. Then it spoke. All your wishes have been granted. The python returned into the river. Silence fell again. The pastor turned to leave, smiling to himself. Suddenly, voices shouted from the bushes. "Stop right there!" Taju, Dogo, and the youths jumped out. The pastor froze. His smile disappeared. Fear filled his eyes. "So you're fake?" Dogo shouted angrily. "This is how you get your powers?" The pastor fell to his knees immediately. "Please," he begged, "I'll give you money. Plenty money." The youths looked at each other. Greed slowly entered their eyes. They stepped aside and whispered among themselves. "Let's call a big amount," one said. "Once he pays, we let him go." "He's not the first," another added. "Others are doing worse." Taju listened in shock. "No," he said firmly. "This is wrong." But they did not listen. The pastor quickly agreed and promised 10 million. Before the night ended, the money was arranged. The youths took it and allowed the pastor to leave. He disappeared into the darkness. Taju stood there angry and shaking. He looked at Dogo. "You took it?" he asked. Dogo could not look him in the eyes. Taju walked home alone that night, his heart heavy like a stone. When he reached his room, he began to pace up and down angrily, his hands clenched into fists. "Money?" he whispered. "So that's it?" His mind replayed everything. The souls, the python, the pastor's lies, his friend's greed. He felt sick. He sat on the bed and buried his face in his hands. Outside, the night was quiet, but inside him, a storm was rising. He knew one thing clearly now. The pastor was free. The evil was still alive, and his own people had chosen money over truth. Taju stood up slowly and looked toward the direction of the river. His eyes burned with determination. Something inside him told him this was not over. Life slowly returned to normal in the village, but Taju's heart never found peace. He continued his daily work on the farm, cutting grass, setting traps, and trying to live like nothing had happened. But the memory of the river never left him. One afternoon, the sun was hot, and his body was tired as he returned home from the farm. His clothes were soaked with sweat, and his feet were dusty. As soon as he entered the house, his wife welcomed him with a smile. But something about her smile felt strange. She looked excited. "Taju," she said happily. "Today I went to Pastor Sharp's church." The words hit Taju like thunder. His heart skipped. His face changed immediately. "What?" he asked sharply. "You went where?" She nodded proudly. "People said miracles are happening there. They prayed for pregnant women." Taju dropped the cutlass from his hand. Fear rushed through his body. He grabbed her shoulders gently but firmly. "Never go there again," he warned. "Never step into that church." His wife frowned. "Why?" she asked. "That pastor is a man of God." Taju shook his head. "You don't understand," he said. "That man is dangerous." But he could not explain everything. Fear sealed his mouth. His wife pulled away. "You are jealous," she said. "You don't want good things for us." She walked away angrily. Taju sat down slowly. His heart was heavy. He felt like he was losing control. The secret he tried to bury was now rising again. Days passed, and his wife continued attending the church. Each time she dressed up and left, Taju's heart trembled. He begged her many times. He warned her. He even shouted one day. But she did not listen. "Faith brings miracle," she always said. One night, her labor pains started suddenly. She screamed in pain and held her stomach. Taju rushed to her side. "We will go to the clinic," he said, but she shook her head violently. "No," she cried. "Pastor Sharp said, when my time comes, I should run to him." Before Taju could stop her, neighbors helped her out. They took her to the pastor. Fear nearly killed Taju. His heart told him something terrible was about to happen. He ran after them, but they were already far ahead. Pastor Sharp quickly took her toward the river. Night was falling. The same river, the same place. At the riverbank, the pastor began to speak strange words again. He told the woman to lie on the sand. Pain filled the air. At that moment, a villager who was returning from fishing saw everything. He hid and watched. He saw the pastor near the river with the pregnant woman. He felt fear and confusion. He ran as fast as he could to find Taju. Taju, he shouted when he found him. Your wife! The pastor has taken her to the river. Taju did not think twice. Fear turned into strength. He ran straight to the police station. His legs moved faster than ever before. When he reached there, he burst inside, breathing heavily. Please help me, he shouted. That pastor is a criminal. The police looked at him with surprise. Taju told them everything he had kept inside for so long. He told them about the python, the souls, the river, the money, the night in the bush. The police listened carefully. One officer stood up immediately. Take us there, he said. They followed Taju quickly, siren sounding. When they reached the river, they saw Pastor Sharp standing there. Taju's wife was weak and crying. The baby had just been delivered on the sand. The police rushed forward. Stop right there, they shouted. Pastor Sharp froze. He tried to speak, but words failed him. The police handcuffed him immediately. Villagers gathered around in shock. Taju ran to his wife and held her tightly. She cried and apologized. The baby cried loudly, alive and safe. The pastor was dragged away. That night, the river witnessed justice for the first time. At the police station, Pastor Sharp could not hide anymore. His strength was gone. His confidence disappeared. Under questioning, he broke down and confessed to everything. He confessed to using dark powers. He confessed to the python in the river. He confessed to trapping souls. He confessed to fake miracles, sacrifices, and money rituals. The officers recorded everything. The news spread like fire. The whole state was shocked. People cried, people shouted, some fainted. Many remembered loved ones who died after visiting the church. The river was sealed off. Investigations began. The pastor's church was shut down. His guards were arrested. The villagers who collected money earlier lived in shame. Dogo could not sleep for days. He came to beg Taju for forgiveness. Taju forgave him quietly. He had no strength left for anger. His wife stayed in the clinic with the baby. She held Taju's hand and cried bitterly. You warned me, she said. I did not listen. Taju nodded slowly. Let us thank God we survived, he replied. Weeks later, peace slowly returned to the village. The river was quiet again, but people feared it. No one went there alone anymore. Taju became known as the man who spoke the truth. Some praised him, some feared him, but he did not care. He focused on his family. He held his child every night and thanked God. Pastor Sharp was sentenced. His name became a warning. His church turned into an empty building filled with dust and regret. The villagers learned a painful lesson. Not every miracle comes from God, and not every pastor is sent from heaven. Taju returned fully to farming. He no longer chased secrets. He chose peace. Sometimes he would stand and look toward the river from afar, remembering everything, but he never went close again. One evening, as the sun set, Taju sat outside his house holding his child. His wife sat beside him quietly. The wind blew softly. Birds returned to the trees. Life continued. The river kept flowing, hiding its secrets forever. Taju closed his eyes and whispered a prayer. not to any river spirit, but to the true God. He knew now that truth is dangerous, but silence is more deadly. And even though evil may hide in holy clothes, it can never hide forever. The river had spoken, the village had learned, and Taju's courage saved lives.